Welcome to The Grant, the EU funding podcast. The Grant. My name is Niels Winter, and I am the creator, editor, and host of The Grant. The Grant is an independent podcast initiative with the ambition to dig into all corners of the EU R&D funding system on topics of interest for the full EU R&D funding community. The kickoff meeting is on the list of things that has to be taken care of as soon as the EU project has been funded. Here, in the third episode in the implementation series, The Grant zooms in on this special event exercise and how to attack it. With me, I have Senior Project Manager Nicole Schmidt from EUTEMA. She's the colleague of good old Georg Melzer-Venturi, who has been our guide in the first two programs of this series. Nicole has planned and conducted many kickoff meetings, and she shares with us the important steps in setting up the event and shares some nice tips, tricks, do's and don'ts based on her experience. This episode contains an endless amount of guidance and heads-ups for professionals who will ever have to plan and execute a kickoff meeting. Please enjoy. The Grant. Welcome to The Grant, the EU funding podcast. Today, it's an episode where I will be continuing the implementation series. And the listeners who've been following that initiation of that series knows that Georg Melzer-Venturi, he has been my sidekick for that, taking us through the initial steps. Until now, we've been hearing how to deal with the grant agreement process with the Commission, and you've been listening to how to deal with the consortium agreement. And if you've been listening to that, you will also know that Georg himself mentioned, you also do the kickoff meeting. I have a colleague of mine that's very, very good in those. So he put his hands on that as well. Now, Georg is not here, but Nicole, you are. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Niels. I'm very happy to joining you here today.
Sure, and just to be perfectly transparent with listeners, and listeners know my style here, the thing is, George is actually supposed to be here, but he didn't tap in, so we have started this recording. He might tap in later, we'll see. We'll see. Anyways, we start this off, Nicole, with you, because you are anyways the expert, and you are the colleague that Georg he recommended for this. So without any further ado, Nicole, can you share a little bit with us, introduce yourself a little bit shortly?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So my name is Nicole. I work with Georg, as you mentioned. I'm Senior Project Manager at his company, EUTEMA Research Services, which is situated in Vienna, Austria. And we do support, and I'm pretty sure he mentioned that already a few times, but we do support quite a few projects, mainly Horizon Now Europe and 2020 projects with project management and communication. And that is also what I am doing there. And Georg and my story goes way back. And I think he already also mentioned the Austrian Research Promotion Agency, which is basically the funding agency in Austria that hosts all the national contact points for the Horizon program. That's where we met, and that's where I spent a long time of my career, over 15 years. And I was a project manager there too, and program manager too. And I also worked a lot with trainings. The FFG has a training scheme for scientists. So I did a lot of trainings, moderated them, organized them, facilitated workshops and trainings. And I guess that's also the reason why Georg ended up suggesting me for this podcast, because I did a lot of that. I enjoy doing that a lot. I learned a lot about the art of hosting, so to say. And yeah, I guess that's the reason why I'm here today.
Yeah. And if we just as the square root of a kickoff meeting, organizing that is indeed, yeah, you are you are keeping all the lines in your hand, keeping everything. It's so that is taking care, conducting a meeting from start to end. It's a lot of organization there. So indeed, thanks. Let's just hear at it. So we're talking about the kickoff meeting today, and just a short fly-in. I always do that in my episodes. So what is it?
What is the kickoff meeting? Yeah, I think the beautiful thing of the kickoff meeting is that in the name itself, you already have the main aim of it. You're kicking off your project with a meeting. So you get it started, you bring it on track, you try starting your project with a bang. In a way, I think you, in the best case scenario, or you already had a very good proposal, right? I mean, you won, you got the funding, and that is your solid foundation now. And now you need to bring life to it, and that is what you have your first chance and really your one chance at the beginning of this project, before you don't see each other again for, in this setting, for like usually a year, to really bring this project on track and you start off properly. And that's why the kickoff meeting is also so important. And the planning, the facilitation, and the whole thing is like super important for a successful project.
Yeah, it's in a sense, it marks the shift from handing over a written document to actual activities.
Exactly.
And gathering that group, both hailing each other for achieving the goal. There's a lot of there's a good atmosphere normally in kickoff meetings. Mm-hmm. Go back to that, why it's not always like, but normally it's a good atmosphere.
Yeah.
Because you have run the money, right? So everything that you achieved, but there's also an element of what do you say? You have to restart your your brain. What was it actually we were supposed to do? We'll get back to that. So that's sort of that is what the kickoff meeting is. It marks a shift. Nah, you helped me with the rundown, Nicole. Thank you for that. With sort of some of the key overall elements to kick after. So it's the next block I have here. It's a main aim. So the main aim of the kickoff meeting is sort of have an overall view at what is it, the purpose here. So can you take us through that?
Yeah, sure. So I think the overall main aim is already what I said, to really kick the project off successfully. But then there are a few sub aims to that, and I've thought a bit about it, and I think there are really just three main blocks to it. The first one, and you mentioned that you had all this excitement when preparing the proposal and then submitting it, and you got this team spirit, but then you had all these months of evaluation and until you finally got the yes, and now you have to bring everybody back together and give them this kind of like big project picture again, right? And some of these people might have never, the people that join your kickoff meeting, they might have never really written or read the full proposal just yet, or just like a year ago or so. So really the kickoff meeting is your chance from a scientific and content related point of view to look again at what are we actually working on, what work packages do we have, who leads these work packages, who are task leaders, and so on and so forth. Like really look at the proposal again and see what we're working on. But then there is a second sub aim that is how we are now working together, right? Like what are from an organizational part of view, are we having a SharePoint? Are we using, like we do now, Google Meets, or are we using MS Teams? Are we using Slack? Are we using any kind of these fancy new tools and all of that? And then the last part, the last sub aim, and to me this one is equally important, is the personal stuff. So building the project culture. So get to know each other better, and create a good vibe, a good spirit amongst the team. And I think this is sometimes something that just tags along with all the scientific agenda and the administrational, but I think it's really crucial to put a focus on that team culture building during the kickoff meeting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Then you also have this element, you have to remind people what you actually, there's this sort of recap nature of it, yeah? Because it's normally it's 6, 7, 8 months ago that you handed in the proposal. And especially if it's a large consortium where you have partners that play a smaller role, need to sort of recap what is this people is actually supposed to do.
You actually exactly what is your role in that project exactly, and that's why I think we also, at least for the kickoff meeting, really always try to at first do it on site. I mean, nowadays you have the option to do it virtually, right? But the kickoff meeting we would suggest to always do on site, and then really invite everyone. There's of course budgetary restraints. Usually we would calculate travel costs for 2 people per institution per meeting. But having said that, during the kickoff meeting, it really makes sense, particularly when larger institutions with more people involved, which is sometimes the case in large collaborative projects, really bring their people in, or at least have them join virtually, so that they could also get into the spirit of the team. It's maybe worth investing some extra money on that, to have everybody there and really let everybody get to know each other.
We have a blog called Team and Group in the next blog. Well, maybe here I tried to, because I had a difficulty finding where I should put that. But here, just a short talk about, because now you started talking about who's coming, so who's invited? How broadly do you invite and why? So you just mentioned it, 2 persons approximately per organization for critical mass. But I think the rule of thumb should be the key persons involved in the project from your organizations. Yeah, so the one that is the coordinating part from your organization, and then a right hand or a team body, a tandem that you work on with the project. Some people come more. I just been at one, and some had 3 people. But yeah, it's sometimes it's also a matter of the budgetary constraints, so how much has been budgeted for being able to travel for the partner events. Yeah.
Absolutely. I fully agree with you. I think it very much depends also on the project structure. Most of the projects, I think, that also we are involved in at EUTEMA, that it's totally fine to have the principal investigator and then maybe a sidekick, a PhD student, or somebody supporting them. We don't have like everybody invited for the kickoff meeting. There are also always people dealing with administration or legal stuff, right? They usually don't come to these kind of meetings.
No.
But then there are, of course, other projects. We're involved in one really large medical project where we have 3 clinical trials. We have patient research partners involved, and there are so large institutions where you have so many different roles. You have the work package leader, then you have the clinical trials leader, the clinical trials manager, and so they have quite big teams, and we also discussed that quite a bit, because it is also a budgetary question. But sometimes, and particularly at the kickoff meeting, it sometimes makes sense to have all the people who are actively involved in the project throughout continuously, really have them on site.
Yeah, maybe it was more clear for people when we have been running through this program, where people can see what kind of activities you actually have at the kickoff meeting, right?
Yeah.
Last thing I put here, because you put it yourself, put it in here, the project officer from the commission. Do you invite that person? What's your take on that?
Yes, we do. We do invite our project officer, because also with our project officers, we've tried to set a good relationship from the start. What we usually do also, even before the kickoff meeting, to organize a meeting with the project officer, a virtual one, to get to know the coordination team, with EUTEMA being always supporting the actual coordinators, call it the coordination team. And then we usually, yes, we always do invite them. Usually they do not come in person because they don't travel for a 10-15 minutes presentation. So they usually join us virtually. And then, of course, like, the European Commission usually has their standard presentations. Some adapt them a little bit, some less. So they do not get a 1 hour slot or so, but really just a short hello.
I would say that it depends a lot of the project officer. They're human beings just like everybody else. So some of them, they stick strictly to the European Commission discourse of word heavy slides and do not for anything in this world raise any slides. So they would come with 40 slides. And then you have others that are much more flexible in their approach. I've seen both.
Very true, me too.
The last approach is definitely recommendable. So any of you dear project officers from the Commission, you're listening to this, from the practical point of view of us out there working together with you, try to stick to the slide light version.
What I personally also really like, and I mean, we, in all honesty, we have never done that, but just in preparation for this podcast, I thought about it, because sometimes they do not have the time because just they have different appointments or so. We could also ask as an alternative for a recorded message just to play at the beginning as a welcome, or have them do some welcome words. I like the idea of project officers also sending some starting words to the team.
A good idea. Video.
Yeah, maybe we'll just try that for once. Yeah, next time.
Definitely. Well done. Good reflection. Good creative approach. All right. The last thing I want to just shoot in here, I didn't put in the rundown. Actually, also one of the key aims of the kickoff meeting, that is for the coordinator to put itself heavily in its role as what you say, the authority of being the coordinator, right? Both the authority, but also the one that binds everything together. But there is something here as a coordinator that you need to think about, that you don't prepare yourself well, so everything is super structured, because you can never best way to come off in any kind of setting like this, super structured, on time, be kind to people, but make sure that everything is extremely well organized, because if you do that as a coordinator, you set by that an example of how this project will be led. Yeah, exactly. How it will be run by you as you move on. Yeah. So it's both you as a person, as a coordinator, but probably you'll have a project manager like you, Nicole, are you dealing with the actual conducting and implementation of the kickoff meeting, but that's a tandem.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where you as a coordinating team, you need to put yourself solidly without no ways of sticking in a knife of maybe doing things differently or so. It has.
Yeah. You actually, you have to work together and you speak with one voice, really. And it's true, in our projects, we also, as you mentioned, I mean, we usually as EUTEMA Research Services have the role of project managers and communication managers. So we are not coordinating, at least not yet. But we have different constellations. We have coordinating institutions that really have a team of people, like the main PI, the professor, who really is the scientific head of everything, and then have a team in their department supporting them, like project managers. So together we really have quite a group of people, and that is of course great. And then we have other projects where the coordinators, the scientific leads, they're basically lonesome cowboys and great scientific principal investigators, but they don't have teams. So we are really on our own with the three of us, so to say. And based on the resources that we have, we can also divide roles for the kickoff meeting accordingly. But coming to the point that also you raised, as the coordinator, I think even if you have a project manager at your side who facilitates and hosts for you, nobody can replace the scientific head of this project, because they were the ones that brought everybody together. And initially these people, and of course they come together for the science, right? So they need a strong scientific coordinator too. You can be a great project manager, but without your great sidekick, or us being their sidekick. Also at the kickoff meeting, they need to show their strong hand too. And if you do that in a team, that's even better.
It's an important part with the with the fact that you, especially for the large ones, you have scientific and practical coordinator. So yes, indeed. Yeah. Next block, Nicole, team and group. And here we it's one of the vital elements with any collaboration, but it's not just for a neo-funded project, right? It comes to anything in a working place, and you collaborate with any sort of collaboration. There's a team and there's a group, yeah, and there's a team culture, and there's this element is extremely important, especially in large collaboration projects to deal with. So, can you share with us your thoughts on this?
Absolutely. I'm a big fan of teams and groups, and also team building. And that is especially in the scientific world sometimes, and maybe we should maybe not get hung up on the word, because team building always comes across like some kind of business thing where people fall into each other's arms, like, and do some trust exercise. That's not what I'm talking about. But as you said, it's a group of people, and as in any other area of life, the better you get along with the people you hang out with or you work together with, the greater the chances are that you actually enjoy your work, and that you do better work because you just enjoy hanging out with the people you're working with, right? And so I think very often in these kind of, especially in scientific projects, this is just not put into the focus of a kickoff meeting, because of course it's all about the science, and yes, that is true, but the team and the team culture to me is really equally important. And so what we do, just to bring this on a rather practical level, is we integrate into the agenda of the kickoff meeting a lot of interactive exercises, team building elements, just group works, different kind of methods, so that people can actually get to know each other. These can be totally unlinked to the topic, the science, or related regards to the work packages, so that they do a little group work on the next steps of the work packages or whatsoever. And we really try at our kickoff meetings to create a nice mix between these kind of scientific inputs and discussions, and then interactive elements where people have the chance to get to know each other. And we also actually start this usually the evening before the kickoff meeting, because people usually travel the day before anyway. And then we offer this kind of informal networking evening. So it's really not a sit-down dinner, but really more like a get-together, maybe a standing buffet, or just like meeting for drinks, where people can, in a very informal setting, already meet for the very first time. Some of the people meet for the first time. Some, of course, know each other already, to set the basis already for starting the next day.
We'll get back to the social program. If we stick a little bit to the group dynamics and the importance of why it is important, because what is important for me to flag here is that some things will go wrong.
Mm.
Yeah, some things will go wrong in this project. There will be things that where you need each other's back. You need to make sure that you can collaborate, even though things would slide sideways. That you have to take contingency ways, plan B, C, F, whatever, and you need in that you if you make if you have a positive energy in the group, that makes things much easier to deal with when you go through the hardships of it, because no project runs through, and so it can be anything. You might have the content of the work package that runs well, but then there might be administrative issues where you need to have, like there's always something where you say, oh shit, and you in that situation you don't want to have a dysfunctional group.
Yes, absolutely.
Because you're always relying on yourself. You do not want to put yourself in a situation where you're cross with coordinator, where the coordinator is annoyed with you as a partner because you keep being annoying, unreasonable, or because you need that support from the coordinator, or you need also towards the other partners. If you're unreasonable in a collaborative setting, if you keep pushing your own things through, or if you keep putting people down or whatever, when you will come, there will be a point where you need them. It's
Absolutely.
like this, and if you have a good energy there, they will be there to help you, because you all have an interest in coming through with things. But if you have been making sure to carry your own eggs through all the time without helping when other baskets were a little wobbly, nobody's going to help you hold your basket when that starts to be wobbly. It's that simple.
Yeah. I fully agree. And yes, you are absolutely right. And I think this is a mere wish that one can already crush at the beginning. A project will always have some kind of challenge, some kind of issue. There will be an amendment, more amendments to come. You can consider yourself lucky if you don't have an amendment within the first year of the grant agreement. This is just what happens. It's totally normal. I remember when I started working in this field, I was always so worried about amendments and the periodic reports and whatsoever. But really, this is just daily business of an EU project. It's totally normal, and I think it's also good to maybe demystify it a little bit. That's totally normal that it happens. However, as you said, if you get along with the people you work with, if you have established a level of companionship, that you don't need to be best friends, but you need to have seen each other, talk to each other, maybe shared a drink, or maybe a conversation about hobbies or about kids or whatever you are into, then you basically, it's about human connection, right? And I mean, it's everywhere. If it's at a workplace, in a EU project, or when you go out with your friends, it's really the better you know each other, or at least know a little bit about each other, and like this person, the harder it gets to really crash and burn it all. And so our experience really is that also there are issues coming up between bilaterally, but also like on a broader scale. But these are all grown-ups, and we can always, have certain levels of escalation where necessary. But as long as we get along in general, first base is already set, so to say.
But it's also important to point out in this context that there's always someone there where there's a friction. Because we, especially in larger groups, there's always that person. Yeah, it's like this. There's always one where you've But this is where the coordinator has to step in. First of all, you as a responsible partner in the project, you need to eat that up. and collaborating. Right? This is a professional partnership, a professional work, professional activities you have to do. So don't step into backstabbing. Don't step into being that idiot that starts to speak bad about people, talking sideways, stuff like this. Don't be that. As a coordinator, no matter who the coordinator will have the same feeling with people. Shit, but the coordinator cannot show any. Each person gets the same attention, same respect, and same room to talk and share. However, the coordinator also needs to cut things off.
Yeah.
So be the one to say, thanks, that's okay. Now I think it's time for other people. If you have one that talks a lot, for instance, keeps interrupting, but in a respectful way.
Yeah, and here is a slight challenge for the coordinator, and I think that's why it is so advisable to have this kind of coordination team together with an external project manager, maybe. Because the coordinator in general wears two hats, right? I mean, they have this neutral part, the coordinating part, the one where they do exactly or should do exactly what you just said, mediate between the project partners. But of course, they also have the scientific head. They also have their own wishes and demands within this project and their own tasks and goals to fulfill. And here it sometimes just helps to be this kind of coordination team with a project manager that can also step in as a external mediator, so to say, but as still part of the project, because we usually really don't have any scientific, for us, it's not about publications or anything. That's the one thing. And then I really wanted to say something about what you raised with regards to this one person, or being more than one, depending on how lucky you are. You always have this person in your project. That's true. And I think it's good to have them, because these kind of critics, they are the ones that put the finger to where it hurts. But usually that's the place where there is something,
Often
inflamed or so. And
you also get the occasional moron that keeps being just opposite, just to be opposite.
And
we know them. We've been in that room with those persons that no matter what's being said, they insist on the opposite position. That's just annoying. But what you're saying here, that's you. It's okay to have that critical mass. What about this corner? Keeping it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, and also when we talk about demystification, like before, when it comes to these kind of partners who are really like all negative and all against everything, and every now and then that happens too, even though we said like usually people want to work together and they want to be successful with the project, but that just happens. And also here sometimes we've been in situations where we had challenges or issues that we could not solve, and that's also fine. And then the solution was that this partner would leave the project, would be replaced, would move tasks to somebody else, and there was no real, there was a solution in the end, but you couldn't solve the conflict, and you could only learn from it, and that's also fine. Usually you also always find a solution in whichever way it looks, even if sometimes a partner also leaves the project. That's of course way down the line of before there are a few steps of de-escalation, of course, but it's also okay if person decides or institution decides, well, this is not for us.
All right. I think what the last comment within this is that as a coordinator, you need to be a diplomat, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You should have that.
It's not necessarily yourself. It's just you might see that conflict, and you can already in the horizon see, okay, this is going to be 4 years where these two people, that's going to be it's going to be a dogfight with everything that they will need to do together. No matter what we do, so you need to be a diplomat.
Mhm.
and then do things. Don't put them in the same working group, or don't put them in the same. Try to just because it's sometimes like this.
Yeah.
It's just sometimes like this. Don't put them next to each other on the social trip in the canoe or whatever.
Yeah, you wouldn't believe how sometimes it is. I mean, we have worked with one project partner who always said it's like a kindergarten group, and
Oh yeah.
and I mean, yeah, it's a bit of like, it's a large group of people that you have to steer this way and that way. So somehow the comparison.
Fantastic. No, Nicole, trying to keep an eye on time here because we have some blocks we still need to go through, but it's these important reflections that we have. It's good for people to know. The content program. So each always, that's naturally that anyone can imagine here, even if you have not done this before yourself. Of course, there's a content program. There's a program for the kickoff meeting. And we'll get to the social program. We move to that in the next block. But first, we talk about what's on the schedule. Yeah, so what's on the official agenda you sent out to people before the meeting. So your reflections on how to build that up.
Yeah, so what we usually start with is, of course, an official welcome, usually from the host organizations, like vice rector from a university or so, then an official welcome from the coordinator, and as we said before, maybe even from the project officer. Then a short introduction. What we usually do, and I was very skeptical the first time we did that, is like an introduction round, where really each partner has one slide where they present themselves, but that really needs very, very clear instructions, and best case scenario also a PowerPoint template, just one slide. We really just want to know who are the people involved, which work package you're working on, like who are you and why are you part of this project, 2 minutes per institution, and that really should be. You need somebody like Georg, when you know Georg by now, that pushes people through to cut next. But it's actually, I must say that I started liking it to really see everybody and listen to everybody just quickly at the start. And then we usually have
but it's not quick.
It takes its time.
It's horrible.
It's not like, usually I agree, I would be totally against like this classical introduction rounds, and we do a lot of interactive group works like later the day, starting pretty soon actually, but this really just very quick. Hi, I'm John, I work in work package 2 and 3, I come from Paris.
But they don't stick to that.
They do, yeah. Yeah, there's always one, like as we said.
It's the most dangerous of the whole kickoff meeting.
It is. Because it can destroy your agenda from the
it's
beginning
just,
on,
ending up
right?
too.
And so if you are a little risk, it depends on your risk aversity. But we made actually good experiences with it. But maybe that's also due to Georg's personality, who can really push people through.
Okay. Now we're talking about it. So let's dig a little bit to it. So what did you do that worked?
What worked?
Yeah, with this. What did you do to make that work? Was it literally just I work for this, when works package this and this, next?
Yes, we, as I mentioned, we provided a slide. We said use this one slide. We provided a example slide of us, of EUTEMA, how ours looked, where it was really just a picture of Georg and I and Vienna in the background, what we do, which work package we're involved in, how our company is called, and what's our expertise, and that's really it. And we sent out an email to the partners. We said, listen, this is the slide we need. We need it up front. So we already saw when people sent in a presentation with 10 slides or so, we said like, hey, that's not the deal. It's at the beginning of the meeting, 2 minutes per partner. We can't take much time there. You will later on have enough time to present your work and whatsoever. And usually the people, they understand and they stick to it. And
dangerous thing about that slide, and it depends how many partners you have in there, but let's just say you have 25 partners.
Oh yeah, that's a lot of
10 partners, yes.
Then I would maybe suggest to do
25, no. Because you have to change everything. There's always the partners that forgets to send it, or they are sitting and working on it on the way.
That's
so you don't have it, so you cannot put it in the flow, right? So you have to change. You have the USB stick. Can you send it out? It's the wrong email.
That's very true. Yeah, I agree. It brings up also a little bit of anxiety already at the start of the meeting, that you could also, if you don't want that, you could also leave it out. But in general, I gotta say, I like the fact that you see everyone, and just for a second.
I agree.
But,
you're the first time that you're in the same room, because since COVID, you rarely meet in the proposal process. Yeah. So you did that before. That was a customer to meet up at minimum once during the proposal phase. We don't do that anymore. So yes, because, and the reason why, I know you will agree with me on this, Nicole, is that many partners won't deal with everything in the, they won't have an insight into all work packages, so they wouldn't have been exchanging with each other. There are many partners that one partner have not communicated with during the proposal phase. They've just been communicating with the ones that they had to involve themselves in, and then they've been seeing a shit long list of emails in the in the CC, right, for emails for the whole consortium, but they have no relationship with these people. So yes, of course there need to be some sort of introduction, so everybody knows who everybody are.
Yeah, but exactly what you mentioned also with regards to the technical stuff and people being late, this really needs clear communication that this slide is needed up front, so that we can put it all into one presentation and then go through one slide after the other, and not open one presentation after the other, because this is going to ruin it, right? And then if one person is late, you can deal with it, but you see it, and I guess you also already see it up front. If you have half the slides the day before, then you can also spontaneously adapt, I think. And that's what brings me to the most important thing before I continue maybe with the agenda, is the solid preparation. What we usually do is we have this whole stage plan where we have per minute a plan, and then of course the idea is to not rigidly stick to the plan. You can't do that anyway, because it's going to change anyways. But with having a solid plan, you can you grant yourself the flexibility to see, like, okay, here I still have a little time buffer, here I have a time buffer, and then you can adapt according to your needs. But let me give you an example for an interactive exercise that you could do instead, which I don't think it covers exactly the same, has not the same outcome in really seeing everybody once and see who works on what. But what we then later on, we would continue with the presentation of the coordinator giving an overview, big project picture at the start before heading into the work packages. And in between that, we would do our first interactive exercise, and we usually do something like in groups. What I personally like a lot for kickoff meetings is to let them work on a joint poster, for example, which is basically a flip chart. And you get people together in groups, and you ask them for their similarities and the hobbies, whatever they share, like common similarities they have in the group, and let them draw that on a flip chart. And that gets the people together already, like in small groups, and they introduce themselves and they get to know each other. And this is a nice way to bring people together. I heard, for example, from one partner who he was a PhD student, and he was actually in a group with one principal investigator, professor from another institution, and he said, hey, normally I do not get the chance to speak to these people in this kind of setting, because at conferences they're always busy, and in meetings they would always talk to the other professors or so, and I would feel anxious or whatsoever. And in this setting really helped to engage in a conversation. And so that's why we like these kind of exercises, to also bring people together from different backgrounds, different mindsets, different hierarchies, and that's a nice way to start, I would say.
Yeah. So it's sort of the social programs ish, to make sure that when you start off, that they start off on a sort of interacting way.
Yeah, and so if you want to call it the social program, what we just try to do is to integrate more of that into the meeting itself, to not just have like a dinner in the evening or so, but really also
let's make the two blocks. So because with content and social program, but let's not take this artificial then just talk with it naturally. So so during the program, you start off with this kind of interaction. Do you rethink that every time, or do you?
This particular method, actually, we like doing a lot, because we tried it out a few times. It worked every time. And it's also a nice method to connect in a way with the project. So what I usually do is, when they're in groups, I work around, I listen in to what they say. So people find similarities. They say like, oh yeah, of course we can all agree on Italian food, and others so like, oh, I didn't understand the task. Were you listening? Oh, can we ask what should we do again? And then ultimately, when we come back together, I say like, hey, you see that in a project, there will always be things you can fully agree on, like Italian food. And then there are things where you don't know what to do, because you were not part of the meeting, or you didn't check the rules, or you didn't read the guidelines, or you didn't get them from us, or whatsoever. So there will be issues. And so it's a nice exercise to relay and to connect with the project itself.
Yeah.
So.
And then comes so you do this the evening before the program starts.
This exercise we actually do during the meeting. So
so you arrive first day in the morning, and then you do something like this.
We start with the official welcome, presentation of the coordinator, and then we would do something like that. I think one thing we learned, what is really important, is to frame this properly, right? Because especially in scientific projects, lots of the scientists are not used to that kind of exercises at meetings. They're used to presentation after presentation after
bloody hippies.
Yeah, and then you come with
bloody
your
hippies taking over my research project.
This is like, what the hell?
Am I supposed to paint my feelings now? What's going on?
Exactly. So it is a bit standing out there. I mean, you have to be a little courageous. That's true. You have to be ready to just like, leap out of your comfort zone a little bit. But and I think it's true. Some people are very skeptical. I see a lot of skeptical faces when we start with this. But I try to focus on the ones smiling and nodding and being excited. And then the key really to get them is to explain why you're doing this. Yep. And everybody understands why it makes sense to connect people and to try to work well together and try to get to know each other a tad better, because we're going to work together for 3, 4, 5 years. And this actually does make sense. And at the end of it, when I explain that and relay it to the project itself, then they usually understand. And also, I mean, we're all in the end, everybody likes, or maybe not everybody, but most of the people like to be in groups, to do something funny. And even though if they're not used to it, if they open themselves up to it, they usually enjoy it.
Because what happens next is that most likely you will have to run through every single work package.
Yes,
Because that's the
that
next thing. That's
happens.
often the next thing that's going to happen. It's good to have had a light intro like you have here, because running through every single work package, it's that is purgatory.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been at kickoff meetings where I've seen that also done differently, and that it takes even more courage, and it takes strong work package leaders. I think that is
Yeah.
a key element anyways for your project, a key success factor, to have solid, engaged, motivated work package leaders who are part of your team to push this forward. And I've been at project kickoff meetings, and I've hosted them partly myself, where we had not a rundown of work package after work package after work package, but really more like a marketplace of work packages, where each work package had their little booth, so to say, basically a table and a flip chart, and people could walk around, and they would always have a short keynote with the main objectives and the main tasks, and then you could go to wherever you felt like you were involved or you were interested in, and get the information at their market booth. Again, I think this can work. To me, deciding that, I think I would maybe do that if that was like a follow-up project of a project where we have already been working together and we know each other already well, and there are maybe a few new partners coming in, but I know the team, I know what works with them, and then I would maybe do that. I know in some with some teams it's harder than with others. Like we work in the medical field too. We have medical doctors, and then we have battery experts. So it's very diverse, very different. And so, yeah, you just have to see and get a bit of a feeling of, what you can do, what you can throw onto your crowd.
Yeah. Yeah, because the thing is, for these kickoff meetings, you have these elements that you have to have in there. You have to introduce one way or the other each other. You have to run through the work packages. You have to run through how do we share things, the organization, so to say, of exchanging files. How do we do this? You have to run through the budget. You have to run through how will the exchange be with the coordinator on each time there needs to be a reporting. So these things, they can be incredibly boring.
Yeah.
But there's no way around them. You have to run through them. But the thing is, what you said here is, like, I hope that somebody's getting inspired up there, because indeed, think of other ways, because what is a normal setup, what happens in such a kickoff meeting, you meet up at 9:00, and then at 6:00, you're not done yet. You still have things, and then you're even a little busy because the dinner starts at 7:00. You start to rush through things, and the next day everybody has to leave at 12:00 because they have planes. So it's this organization of having the things that you have to do, and doing them in a way so people don't die.
Yeah, it is a challenge. Yeah, and here I'm advocating putting even more blocks in with regards to interactive exercises and activations, because you need them to get through the day. And at the same time, of course, you have to compromise somewhere, because the day only has 24 hours. And I think there are a few, when we really focus on the kickoff meeting, there are a few topics that you can only touch upon and do not have to go into detail so much. From my experience, this is, for example, the reporting, especially the periodic reporting, usually only comes up after 12 or 18 months. You don't tell the people, yes, that this is going to come, but you don't have to tell them in detail at the kickoff meeting, because they will have forgotten until then when it happens anyway. Month 6 meeting is soon enough, I think, to go into further detail on that. Then also any kind of processes, internal processes that you only need. For example, we have this very detailed internal deliverable review process to make sure that our deliverables are top notch and high quality. But if your first scientific deliverable is only due in month 9, and the first deliverables that are due are only like classic project handbook and data management plan and communication and dissemination plan, and these are all done by you, then you also don't have to present the deliverable review process in detail. So I'm saying there are a few points that you can just touch upon and don't need to go into detail during the kickoff meeting.
Yeah. I just went to kickoff meeting this spring, and what they did, they put in some workshops, interactive workshops in between so you cannot get around the things that you have to run through, but then they had put in 2 workshop sessions with like breakout sessions where you would sit in smaller groups and work with concrete content. So not just meaning that you would have all the formalities of running through all the information, but there would actually be a reflective work in between the participants about the concrete work that was going to happen, talking about how activities should be carried out or stuff like this. So that's how they work with that, but you can never get around the fact that it's a challenge with all the information you have to take a run through.
But I agree. And I think just maybe have to ask yourself really how much depth of each work package is really necessary to convey during the kickoff meeting to the plenary. So what we like doing actually rather closer to the end of the kickoff meeting on the second day is then again, as you also mentioned now, but we do it at the end to have small groups of the work packages to work on their respective next 2 months, 6 months, and 12 months tasks. So to come up with a flip chart where they in the group discuss their first and next steps, so to say. Of course, we have the issue that multiple institutions are included in multiple work packages. So either you have more people on site or you just switch. It can be a group work where you go from one group to the other, or we do 2 rounds. And then this also is actually quite a nice transfer exercise at the end of the kickoff to really keep the movement, keep the vibe, keep the momentum going by them already working on the next steps in a group. So I think that's also a nice way to focus on the respective work packages with the respective work packages groups, and really try to not tell everything to everyone, because usually in these projects, not everybody needs to know really everyone, but really needs this big project picture.
I think exactly this, that you put the working groups, that this next step thing is very important, because you summoned, kicking things off. Well, what are we going to do the next? It's a good, and we also did that. That was part of the workshops. So what are the next steps? Where do we see the challenges in carrying out these things, getting started, stuff like this, to sort of give people a chance to reflect, and then handing it over to the coordinator.
exactly.
So
And
gathering things, so getting an overview of the work.
Yeah, and I would like to add to what you said, because when I come to think of it, because I'm also work package leader in our projects, and the General Assembly meetings, and first the kickoff, of course, it's in itself special, but then what really is important is that the work packages then, and there are where I come back to the strong work package leads after the kickoff meeting to organize this frequent work package meetings. And then we meet on a regular basis, whatever is needed. I mean, we do meet once a month, and then the on-site meetings where we actually see each other, for me, they are just the cherry on top, because with my team, I'm constantly working, I'm discussing stuff, and I have these work package meetings. And then when we meet in the whole group, we only really just present what is relevant to all of them. And so I think that is also really important to at the kickoff meeting, to make sure that the teams assemble, so to say, the work package teams, that they come together, that they know each other, and that the work package leaders, and then they have this plan on how to proceed after the kickoff meeting. And really, as I said, to keep this momentum going.
Yeah. Now, trying to rounding this block of content and social program of what we, so I just put here the scheduling of the program. Simple, how do you do this? So what is the normal way of approaching this? And here you have to balance what do you say, logistics. Like, people has to come to this place in and out. So you need to find out, you need to be a place where it's easy for people to come. Don't make it too difficult.
Absolutely.
So you need to, normally it's a day and a half, because you don't want to take half a week out of people's calendar. You cannot do this in one day, because you do want the social, you do want the dinner in the evening, which is important in the social program of knitting people together. So that you need the formalities that we just mentioned. There's a lot of things to go through, and you also, if you want to lighten that up with, like we said, workshops or different kind of methods to to make things a little lighter. You need the second day at morning 9 to 12 to round things up, to secure the last elements of the formalities are fixed, and to send people well home. Normally people, they should have a flight in the afternoon so they can get home in the evening. So so that's sort of the frame. That's a normal frame, and everything that I've been to for these things has been more or less like this. It's I've never been at a full 2-day event. It's always been a day and a half, one way or the other.
Yeah, we usually do a second day, but also, like, I would say 2/3 day.
Okay.
So we try to, like, find a location that is easy to reach for everyone, and then go on the second day until 3, maybe 4. But I agree with you that what happens is, you can say it as often as you want, but people want to travel back the same day. That's totally understandable. And we also don't want another hotel night, and people just want to get home.
Yep.
And so they book the flights that are available, right? And so sometimes they just have to leave sooner. And then what you have is, what the danger is with prolonging it into the afternoon, is that you have people, like, dropping off, like, they just disappear.
They will, yeah.
And that sucks a bit. But we usually do the second day a bit longer, but that is an issue, and it's really, it is what it is. It's just like that. People fly home and they fly with what they get, and so. But I think when you have that in mind, but it's hard to always decide on what comes at the end, because you would usually say, like, okay, then let's do some project management input at the end. But it's also important for people to know. So it's better to plan, to really think about what, as you said, what needs to be said, what needs to be covered, and where can we really focus on the core, and leave the rest out, and maybe leave the rest also for a separate meeting afterwards, right? And really just focus on that topic later.
Because the people will leave because they are off flights, it doesn't fit. So there will be people sort of slowly on day 2 slipping out earlier. So the good idea is to put things that people can get in an email.
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't know, budget, accounting principles, whatever, things that it's not absolutely vital for people to be there.
Yeah, exactly. And
I think what I mentioned before when you asked like how to set up such a schedule and also from the organizational part of view, I find it very, very helpful if these people exist, to have like a organizational support at the host institution, because there is this little things like catering and room and technicians and room setup and badges and like goodies table and whatsoever. So there are all these organizational things that if you have someone that can really support you with that, that's great. Also on site, I find
we'll get to the organization block in a second.
Okay.
But the last thing we need to talk about here in this block, that's the dinner. Yeah, because that's the having food together in the group. It's like that's what food does. Yeah. It's cozy. It's you finally lower your shoulders. It's that's where people they breathe out. You know, it's been a long day. So that's important, and it's more important as such because it's to choosing a place where people feel cozy, where people have there's not too much noise. Yeah, a restaurant with not too much noise. So, and with enough space, where it's there are many little tick boxes you need to think and reflect over when you choose a place to eat. Because it's if people have a really good experience for the dinner in the evening, then it's everybody's in a good mood the next day.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's incredible what it does to the perception of the project, if the experience is good or if it was.
Absolutely, yeah, and you wouldn't think, but these are the basic human needs, and food is one of them. And when food is not good or not even provided, then you do have a problem.
Yeah.
No, absolutely, I would agree, and you wouldn't. If you're doing that for the first time, and it's easy maybe to forget about things like also like various options, like okay, nowadays vegetarian I guess is a must, but even vegan or allergies or whatsoever, you have to but collect this information at some point. Accessibility, like sometimes we have this super fancy basement like cellars, beautiful old cellars, but they don't have an elevator or whatsoever, and then you have one person in a wheelchair or so, and that's a no-go, that they cannot participate, right?
We at the kickoff meeting I went to, that's the one in a wheelchair. But and she had to change hotel. Because the hotel that where she booked, she could not get into her room.
And these
so
are
in the middle of the dinner, she had to leave because she needed to change hotel.
And that sucks, right? And I mean that's bad, and you don't want that from the beginning on, because that gives the people the feeling that maybe you don't care, right? And you don't want that.
Didn't consider it. It's
exactly. And I mean, we are in medical projects where we actually have patient research partners. We are in a huge rheumatology project, and there, this is a big deal, right? And I mean, but it's also in a way
having an allergy project, and then you go to a restaurant that just boosts everything.
I mean, and you have to. I gotta admit, I mean, it also really broadened my horizons in a very. I think I'm very grateful for that, because there are so many things you have to consider with regards to accessibility, with regards to like human comfort, like really standard baseline needs, and that can also be part of this job. And so that's important too. Talking dinners, I think what we have recently started to change actually is we had that project meeting in San Sebastian in Spain, and it was great. We went out for pinchos, which is like the version there,
tapas.
the best tapas, exactly. And it was amazing, and it was so nice that this was kind of this informal get together, and you could actually talk to everyone and not just like be seated and then sit with the people that you sit with, right? And so we really loved that. And then coincidentally, on the second day, the reservation fell through, and we had to do that again. And actually, we said, well, it's actually kind of better in a way to have this more like informal setting and be able to walk around more and talk to different kind of people. And so that's what we're trying to do now, is like trying to find locations, restaurants where we can have a mix, where there is a buffet and there is standing tables, but there is also places to sit, because of course some people want or need to sit. But it's more flexible, and we actually kind of like that kind of dinners lately. So we've also just changed that.
Yeah. It also helps if you do that not regular basis, not regular. You're making a kickoff meeting, but if you do it sort of once a year, if there's whenever you are the one that needs to do that, you are in the same city, so you know your place, your go-to places for the different. I guess how do you do it in Vienna or?
Yeah, usually when the coordinators, some of our coordinators are in Vienna, so we would do the kickoff meeting always there where the coordinator is. So we also have it elsewhere.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's it for the program. So keeping on time, but it's going to be okay because the last blocks here, they shouldn't be too long. The famous last words. No. Because the next block we have here, it's organization. Yeah, because this is for the person who loves logistics and organization. The kickoff meeting is a blast, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You can totally.
That's getting that long list, like 200 list to what to do when you organize an event. Get out that list and start to tick off those boxes. If that's you, then you're in heaven.
Yeah.
Now,
and best save this list for the next kickoff meeting so that you don't have to do it all over again.
And you just hear what you just the dinner. You could hear Nicole, my dear guest, running through just sketching out the list that you need to already giving you sort of a blueprint. Now, I put a few bullets here: venue, hotel, logistic for presentation, workshop. But there's a lot of organization here, right? There's an organization around the program. There's an organization around the whole setting. There's an organization around making sure beforehand that there are hotels people can choose suggestions, that you have to choose the venue. Can you share a little bit with us how you attack this, how your setup is there?
Okay, sure. By now, luckily, we do have these checklists, these huge Excel lists that we go through. But also at some point we started with this. So I think I start early when you define. I'll start really right at the beginning, because there is one crucial factor that we always miss is when setting the date, check if there are any other conferences or big fairs or anything in the cities that just increase the hotel prices to double. So that's already at the start with the dates. Then we usually, most of the institutions, the coordinating institutions, we're trying to save costs by having rooms at their institutions when they are available, which is nice also for them to have like an European consortium coming in and really join them at their institution, and then you can have a vice rector or a managing director speak. So venue we usually do either at the coordinations institution of course, that's cheaper than going to a hotel. A hotel has the benefit that you, of course, when you can bring all the people into the hotel, you can maybe get better rates from the hotel when you have the room and the people and everything in one spot. And of course, it's more convenient because you can come down, go to breakfast, go to the meeting room, and you don't have any kind of commutes. One huge factor to consider nowadays, the technical setup, technical options at the rooms. It's nice. Some coordinating institutions, they want to put us into the most beautiful old-fashioned rooms in their century-old universities, but then you don't have proper, well, you do have a beamer, but you might not have a hybrid equipment or so. So
the
that
Wi-Fi is a little iffy.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So these are all things to consider with regards to locations. So technical setup, of course, being easy to reach, being accessible, as we said. In the best case scenario, have a technical support team there that could be there. That's the worst. Is really this when something doesn't work with the computers or the technical setup, and you have to deal with that for hours on end. We
Count on the fact that there will be something.
There always is, right? I mean, the better. We actually really always get there the day before. We have this networking dinners anyway, and then we set up, do the technical and room setup the day before, the evening before, and try it out. At least it might still go wrong the next day, but at least see if it works. Bring an extra set of laptops, because nowadays when you have a hybrid meeting, you want a laptop to do the screen share and one to do the presentation mode and whatsoever, right? And then somebody wants to take minutes, and then suddenly you don't have a laptop anymore left. So I don't know if that's too much detail now.
No, because it's important for people to get an idea. When they listen through, they can stop it and make notes. It's like this. It's important for people to understand that it's a complex logistical setup to do, no matter what you want to do. It's a kickoff meeting. It's a 1.5 day event, plus minus, where you have to where a lot of people come in and leave within a short span of time. And everything around it requires planning and organization of logistics. It's so yes, be well prepared. And start early, because you need to visualize the day.
Oh,
You need to take them step by step. What happens then? What happens then? You need to sit in your team, and if it's only yourself, sit and take it step by step. What happens then? What happens then? What needs to be in order for this step of the meeting? What needs to be in order here? What needs to be in order here? And just slowly build up an overview of what needs to be done. And then, of course, you need to understand, to prioritize what's most crucial to fix. Okay, so you need to book the venue date. If it's not if it's not in the coordinator, if it's a hotel, you need to book it. You need to make sure that it's there. You have the date booked, so you need to organize with the partners. This is the date. No, if important partners say it's not possible, to find another date. That's stuff like this. There's constantly things where you need to think what's most important at this point of time. You can the presentation you need to do yourself. You can finish that the week before. So you don't start with that, right? So it's just to put up what needs to be done and when does it need to be done. And this is some people, they love to do stuff like this. Event organizers, you have
That's
these
why
people
there
that
are
are just
jobs,
natural talents with these things. They love ticking lists, love organizing, love these kind of making things spin like a wheel, right?
Yeah, you have to have a certain love of that, and I do, but it is complex. It is very complex, and it's good to really plan this properly. And to me, I like to, because I like to think with images that sticks better, like anchoring that thought. To me, a kickoff meeting is like an iceberg, in the sun, glistering in the sun, in the ocean, and you only ever see the tip of the iceberg, right? And this is hopefully, if you get lucky, that it's beautiful and it shines and it's really nice to look at. But then there is this whole block of ice underneath the surface that you don't see, and that's your solid planning and your preparation. And when you do that well, then the iceberg that you see is just like drifting and beautiful to look at. But if not, it's just gonna sink and lean and fall and whatsoever. And so I think, and it's a massive part is the preparation for the kickoff meeting itself. And yeah, I hope I made that clear how important.
Yeah. But it's
I think it is.
this is part of the element of what we started off talking about. Call back to that. This is the coordinators, the impression you get as a partner. If anybody can understand that some things they don't work, or it's like this. It's complex. No, people are not idiots. But if there are too many things that are sliding, or then so this is connected to. It's not to give you anxiety out there, but that's just how it is. If things are well prepared, well organized, people think they know exactly what they're doing here. Thanks. That's a well coordinated meeting, so they will also be able to do well coordinated projects. So to say, it tips over to the impression people have you as a coordinator. Yeah. So unfortunately, that's just how it is. Are we good with the organization?
I could mention, but I already mentioned templates, I think, for presentations.
Yeah, I think when it comes to if it's the first time you're doing this, of course you don't have any templates, but if you do this, if it pops up again, then yes, templates. Do things for yourself where you can replicate agendas.
Absolutely, especially when you are, I think, when you are involved in more than one project, or when you are potentially having projects in the future, it's really beneficial to set up a kind of like templates for yourself, but also templates for the project. I was never a big fan of process management, but now I understand why these processes are set and done, because then you can always fall back on this process and you see, okay, this is my startup process, this is my organization of a kickoff meeting process. You just take your checklists and you go through them all, and you don't have to reinvent the wheel every single time. And so when we're talking templates, I think when focusing on the kickoff meeting again, I think it's good to provide presentation templates for the work package leaders or the speakers, really. Then you can already steer that also a little bit into the direction in which what you want to focus on, right? That's exactly what we discussed before. You have to prioritize. You can't squeeze everything into 1.5 days. There's just not enough time. But if you send out presentation templates where you have a preset structure and tell your work package leaders, this is what we need to hear, and maybe then a little bit more, fine. Then this is that helps to structure your agenda.
Do you? I'm being cheeky here, Nicole. Would you be prepared to share any of those checklists with my listeners?
Well, I guess I will have to check that with Mr. Melzer-Venturi.
Sure. No worries. What I would do myself, if I would probably go to ChatGPT for like a first draft, and then something to work, a frame to work with.
Absolutely.
And then you can probably, if you Google it, probably find EU project kickoff meeting organizing.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's worth the search, I would say, and
yeah, because you need somewhere to start. Yeah,
absolutely.
No.
Yeah.
Let's move into. So you put here the end, the end of the event. How to end the event. Why is that important?
Yeah, I think we've mentioned that partly, at least already. in the best case scenario, right, during your kickoff meeting, you have now succeeded to get develop a certain momentum, to develop a group spirit, to everybody. Usually after these kind of meetings, people are kind of excited and happy to start. And then they go back and they sit in front of their computers and they open their emails and there's other stuff they need to work on. And then, okay, the vibe is gone. And so, as I already mentioned, during the meeting itself, we would do this kind of like group work at the end. What is the outlook of the next 2, 6, 12 months, for example? But also right after the meeting, I think it's crucial to do a bit of a follow-up, right? I mean, of course, there's the one part that is the administrative part of the minutes and everything, but also to what we like. In the best case scenario, the SharePoint is already up and running. You've already shared your documents online, and then you will share the pictures from the kickoff meeting, because people just like to be reminded of the good times they had, right? And just send some follow-up emails to really keep the vibe going, and then have a steering committee or executive board meeting, whatever you call it, soon after. At the beginning of our projects, we do have these kind of meetings in a very rather short-termed, like all 3 weeks, for example, to really, keep the wheel going. And then again, it's really the work package leaders who have to take up and with their respective kickoff meetings of their work packages, right?
Yeah, it's I think this keeping up the steam. So this follow-up element, it's vital in relation to, so as a coordinator, you have, there's no way around. You have to follow up quickly. I'm probably dead tired after organizing the kickoff, but you need to follow up fairly quickly with the follow-ups, because there will always be follow-ups. There might be formalities that needs to be finalized. There might be some documents that partners need to return. There might be some even squeezy deadlines on that, where you need to push people a little bit, and then the agreements you made. So when will you meet? When are you going to do this? So when will you start up this? When will you start the life cycle analysis preparations? When will you start the screening of this research area that is needed for us to return with to get moving on with this activity and so on? So when is that going to happen? And then keep a leash on people, and making sure that they are doing it, that they are inviting the work package groups for those meetings to get things starting and rolling, and so on and so forth. Because exactly this, it gets Monday, people get back, work takes over, right? The daytime job, so to say. So it's
I agree. So usually we would, when we have the first steering committee or executive board meeting of the work package leaders with the coordinator and the project management team, we would follow up on that. We would see like if they already had their first work package meetings. Of course, some work packages only start later in the process, of course. And I also that I just only learned over time that really work package meetings, the work package teams, it's also beneficial to have kind of like their own kickoff meeting, so to say. Usually that is then virtually, but when they meet for the very first time, to also like, do some kind of team building, to also get them the big work package picture again, so to say. And I think that is then really the task of the work package leaders. That's why it's so important to have strong work package leaders. And then they report back during these frequent meetings with the coordination team, right? And if everything is running well, then you should hear what's going on in the work packages throughout the course of these months, and then meet again next time and see where they're at.
I put here, what if the event went bad?
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about that.
because it have probably if you check with coordinators throughout Europe, like the experience on this. Of course, you will have kickoff meetings where people will leave with with a grudge or grinding teeth, or then my best guess is then you need to make sure to follow up closely. You need to repair. You need to have some bilateral phone conversations. Maybe you gather the work package group leaders in an online call just to repair whatever people got, not or people getting the feeling that if they thought that the event was indifferent or that it was like making sure that you get that motor running anyways. Yeah. And need to do something, but it's true because you need to deal with that, and that's also I have already recorded the coordinator episode, and there we talked about this, that sometimes it's rough to be a coordinator. You have to do the difficult thing. There are difficult things all the time that you need to deal with, and this would be a difficult thing lying on your table. You have to deal with it. You have to, no matter what kind of anxiety it gives you, what the kind of really want to put that off, you really want to, you have to do it.
Absolutely. Yeah, that comes with the job. That's true. And I would fully 100% agree to what you said. Luckily, we did not make the experience just yet that we had a bad kickoff meeting, at least not from our experience. Maybe the partners didn't tell us, but we always had the impression it went well. But I thought a bit about that question, and I agree to what you say. I mean, then you just really have to invest the time. There's no way around that, to follow up, to have bilateral meetings, to have this kind of conversations. And and that's just the work you have to put in as a coordinator. That's part of the job too. And I think that's also another reason why it's good to have this kind of teams. Not always that's the case, but if you have these kind of teams, then in our case, for example, with Georg and I, it's always good because we can do this good cop, bad cop thing, because he tends to be the bad cop, and I can move it to him. So when Georg gets involved, then everybody knows that the fire is on. But that's also a nice way to teach our partners that now it really has to happen. But of course, that's not always possible. And it's also for oneself sometimes a nice way to learn that sometimes you have to be a bit harder, especially when you also do the reporting and stuff. At the very latest, when the first periodic reporting is due and you need to collect all the financial statements, then you have to put your bad cop face on. It doesn't help anyway. But yeah, that's for another episode, I guess.
All right. I have 2 small blocks left. Learnings, do's and don'ts. Do you have a few do's and don'ts?
Well, I think do's we've already covered quite a lot. So plan well. Don't compromise on time for team building. I think it's hopeful. I'm hopeful that came across, that this is really important. Check the setup before the technical stuff. You don't want to deal with these kind of things during the meeting. Make a good plan, but then as a don't, maybe don't try to rigidly stick to the plan. Prepare well. That grants you the flexibility to then also be flexible. Don't, just came to my mind, I think it's good to offer the opportunity that people listen in virtually. Don't forget about your virtual participants. Hybrid meetings, to me personally, are not best of both worlds. You cannot just create so much more work. But especially during a kickoff meeting, when you have people watching virtually, don't forget about them. Like, address them at least, have maybe a virtual host that deals with them, that also can send them into breakout rooms, because sometimes then you have these interactive exercises on site and everybody is happily engaging in group works, and the people virtually, they just sit there and wait or deal with their emails. And if you also put some focus on them, have someone deal with them, send them in breakouts whatsoever, I think for the team building part, that would also be beneficial.
Just brought in an element we haven't discussed, and that's actually an important element. Virtual. Now, we don't want to make this episode much longer because we're towards the end, but just my personal opinion is that it's not a good idea to mix those things up. Because it can be very disruptive to your planning and to the social element, to how it works during the way things work, that the virtual participants, to keeping them engaged. And so I think, I don't know, I've never tried it. There's never been virtual participants in these kind of events that I've been involved in. So you done that?
Brings up a whole other layer of planning and preparation. I think it
would you recommend it?
No, I wouldn't. Listen, I think it very much depends on, like, at the kickoff meeting, you also, and you don't want to exclude people, and there are always people who like to listen in. So I would always offer that option. And then it very much depends on how many or what kind of interactive exercises you have. It also depends on how many virtual participants you have, because if you have like 3, well, yes, you can. I think it really depends.
You know what? You know what I think? If we need to come with a recommendation, so I would recommend that if you want to let people listen in, fine. But let it be the barrier. Say, look, you can listen in, but we're not. Whenever we will have breakouts, we'll cut off the virtual. So you can listen into the session. You will have a break. Do what you do there where you are. But for the focus will be on the physical participants, the physical meeting we have here. But of course, to just, if you just want to know about work packages, listen, fine. But that's it.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I would agree to that. I think a recommendation would also be, because from my own experience, I sometimes forget that they are there.
Exactly.
And that is sometimes, it would be nice to remember that they are there, and every now and then address them, at least, even if they're not really involved in any kind of group works or so, but address them, and goodbye to our virtual participants, or welcome back also online or whatsoever. And this really needs to a sticky note somewhere too.
I discussed with actually an Austrian guy also, Thomas Röbelreiter. He's
I know Thomas.
Nice. And we discussed. I recorded an episode with him on, of course, brokerage events. And we talked about this, where we also came into the topic of physical and virtual, so mixed events. He said, no. No. Either you do virtual brokerage or you do physical brokerage. To mix it, it's a mess. And say the same here. It's a fine as a listening channel. Turn on the radio. You can listen to what's going on in the room with the presentations. But anything else, I'm sorry, focuses on dealing with the actual participants, unless you want to do a virtual kickoff meeting.
Oh no! Well, we did that, and you wouldn't believe it, but oh my God, you wouldn't believe what you could do virtually. But that was during the pandemic, and that was all we had, and so people were just, they really needed social interaction, and so they were open for literally anything online. Nowadays, it's different again, luckily.
on that note, toughest challenge?
Oh, with the kickoff meeting. For me, the toughest challenge at a kickoff meeting or at literally any bigger project meeting is multitasking, because usually we are in charge of the facilitation, the timekeeping, the organization, the communication, because we are also communication managers. So we also post on social media about what we're just doing here. Answering questions, because people know us and we are the ones that sent everything out, so they come to us. Then sometimes we also have to shoot videos or take pictures of the partners, profile pictures for future things whatsoever. So it's just like, so this, after these 2 days, I'm usually dead. And
How many people are you?
Well, I mean, at
For this?
UTEMA,
So Georg, you, and
we have another colleague, Alberto, at EUTEMA Research Services, but usually at the kickoff meetings, we are 2 people for one project. So it's usually Georg and one of us. And then it depends on the constellation at the coordinating organization. And here it goes from 1 or 2 people up to 5 or so, if we get lucky. And that, of course, makes a huge difference. But yeah, it's intense. So multitasking, I hear, is actually it's not what exists, but sometimes it's needed, and it's complex.
I have not arranged kickoff meetings, but I arranged so many other things similar to this, and it's when it's done, you are done. It's very resource intensive. It's not like writing a proposal, of course, but it's.
But it's also, and I think that's maybe a nice conclusion also too, it's also your first and maybe one chance at the very beginning of the project to already delegate and put your team to work. When you're, for example, also leading the work package on communication, have some other people communicate on social media during the meeting. Minutes. We try to have all the work package leaders themselves taking the most important notes, have a shared minutes file. So really already work as a team from the start on. And I think if you manage to do that at the kickoff meeting, then you already set the stage for the future, for the rest of the project, and then you're set and good to go.
Yeah. Now, the natural next step of natural second recording in relation to something like this in a series of implementation is, of course, the partner meetings that comes throughout the project, and you just invited yourself for that. So we will do that, but we'll plan that. It's not urgent, so don't worry. We'll do it. I hope that you would agree to that.
Awesome, I'd love to.
Yeah. Now I will have to shut down this episode before it gets too long. So I'm just going to land the plane, and then before we say goodbye to the listeners. So dear listeners, thank you for listening to the end. Hope you enjoyed this introduction and reflections on how to run your kickoff meeting. If you like this, you can tap into the implementation series. This is number 3, so you can listen into the grant agreement and the consortium agreement episodes with Nicole's manager Georg, taking you through that. Otherwise, you can go into my website, thegrant.eu. You'll find more than 100 episodes there within the EU funding area, and there will definitely, if you like this, there's definitely going to be some content for you that you will like there. So browse in. I categorize stuff so you will be able to find more easily stuff that suits you. While you're there, don't forget to subscribe to my podcast. Subscribe to my podcast email list. That's the way I grow as an independent podcaster. So if you have any sympathy with what I'm doing, please, by all means, subscribe to that. Finally, as always, connect with me on LinkedIn and find my The Grant site. I've made the Grant page on LinkedIn. You can go in and follow that. I'm trying to channel my flow of information and likes and shares to that, so it doesn't get mixed up with my daytime job flow of information. So yeah, that's that. So that's Nicole, thanks for joining me. Thanks for dropping by. Georg never tapped in.
He didn't. He just
that was
left
the
me
clip.
the floor.
That was
It's
the
very
clip.
kind of him to give me the stage finally too. But that's I hope he's fine and well.
It's been a nice cliffhanger for you people out there. Is Georg gonna come?
Is Georg well?
Is he gonna join?
What happened to Georg?
And this is now your cliffhanger. Will you ever know what happened?
It's like a true crime podcast suddenly. Hopefully not.
Nicole, thank you so much for joining. It's been a pleasure. It's been very nice to having you in. Now let's say goodbye to the dear listeners. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Grant. All the Grant episodes have their own site on the Grant website. You will find the link in the episode notes where you listen to your podcast. On the site for this episode, you will find a link to Nicole's personal LinkedIn site, as well as a link to EUTEMA's website. Further, you will find useful links to more information about how to set up a kickoff meeting. Next week, there will be more on the lump sum principle. I have invited John Stian Haugeland from the Danish private research organization Danish Technological Institute to dig into the lump sum principle and share how to approach this new budget principle. You can indeed look forward to that. Remember that I have launched a campaign where you can get your FP10 position paper promoted through the grant. It gives you the possibility to reach a large audience, stand out in the flood of position papers, and add more details to your strategic point of view. You can check out my website, thegrant.eu, under collaboration, where you will find more details how I can help and the added value. Further, the grant would really like to join some EU proposals as a partner or subcontractor. Adding sound to the proposal communication strategy can be a strong addition to connecting with the project stakeholders and the world beyond the realm of the project. The grant will be a small screw supporting the communication and dissemination lead, with developing great project podcast episodes to support the communication and dissemination activities. Reach out through LinkedIn or my website if interested. Finally, don't hesitate reaching out if you want your own podcast episodes flagging topics of importance for you specifically. Grant's consultancy company Inspire Science have their own series with 3 episodes flagging their capacities within different areas of supporting research organizations towards EU funding. The possibilities are many: flagging your capacities as a company, pushing a message towards the Brussels ecosystem as a research organization, promoting an important event, or boosting your communication strategy. The grant offers a plug-and-play solution with a podcast host with 16 years of experience within the EU R&D field, which secures the solidity of the content. I'm not a journalist, I'm a conversation partner that understands your perception. See you next week.